Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to introduce Sean, CEO of Kickfurther. Kickfurther is the world's first online inventory financing platform that enables companies to access funds that they are unable to acquire through traditional sources. So don't forget to add your questions in the chat, and let's kick things off by putting a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you have ever used financing before. So, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carly. I appreciate the time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So just briefly, I'll give you 2 minutes of background on myself. I come from a supply chain management background, so really helping U.S. businesses find overseas manufacturers typically to help them improve their costs. I started my own merchandising business, a product business, where we were selling primarily our biggest SKU was 36-inch tall fiber optic Christmas trees from China. And at a certain point, we got an order for 7 container loads of these Christmas trees. And that was when, in my own merchandising business, I encountered this issue. Where do I come up with the cash to help fund the ongoing production and ongoing growth of my product business? And so we came up with the idea for Kickfurther, and the rest is kind of history. But what are the issues, right, that typically lead to cash flow problems for businesses? So we see, honestly, number 2 is the biggest one, is meeting growing demand. So what we typically find is product companies that hit that nerve on product market fit will often find themselves stocking out of inventory, constantly looking to fund and create and deliver more inventory than their cash flow allows, right? So prior to being able to sell anything, right, you have to pay your factory to make it for you, whether it's a deposit or a down payment, or you have to pay the whole thing up front, depending on where your business is and what your relationship with the manufacturer is. That is often this constant cash flow pinch, where if you sold $100 of units last month and you need to fund the production of 200 units in the next month, that ramp up of production just creates this ongoing cash flow pinch for growing product businesses. We also see that there is often a pinch when there is a reallocation of resources. So for instance, when a product business is developing their next SKU or developing a product update to serve a different market segment. And in those times, that has an impact on your cash, which you want to deploy to keep your inventory levels high so you can continue driving revenue. And that is one of the other issues. But typically, it's one of those 2 places, either in growing demand or allocation of resources. Another really common scenario is when, very similar to what my situation was, when I had a product business, it was growing, and then I got a wholesale order for many more units than I had previously been selling. And that big ramp up going from, let's say, 2 containers to 7 containers created a cash flow pinch where I needed to find a bunch of cash in a very short amount of time to fund that production so I could deliver the inventory, get the purchase order, right, and then earn the revenue and grow my business. So that's kind of like a really good problem to have as a product business, right? You've got more demand than you have inventory to sell. And fortunately, there are options for you to compete in the market, right? So what we do typically see in the market today is that the supply chain favors larger brands. So if you've got Walmart and they're able to buy 20 container loads of a SKU, you aren't going to be able to command the same cost price from that manufacturer that Walmart is, right? And so what that means is that the big distribution groups, right, the guys that can buy in big quantity, it's really, really tough to compete with them on any kind of like commodity level products, right? So taking over pickles from Walmart is going to be really, really tough. Which is why that second bullet point is so important, right? Finding product market fit within a niche audience. That is where we are seeing e-commerce brands compete and win against these bigger, much more established brands, right? And these can be ancillary products that make things, slightly easier to use. That you just think about the advent of the, hundreds of dock companies that were created after the advent of smartphones, and everybody wanted a nice, cool looking place to charge their phone and still have access to it next to their computer as they were working, right? And so, you've constantly got innovation. You have to, if you can get to product market fit, if you can hit that nerve with a new product and serve a niche audience, you can compete against these big players. And the product pricing across channels, what that means is really that for your success as an e-commerce business, what you want to do is establish what we at Kickfurther call the double-double. So typically what you want to do with a product business is have a big enough margin when you sell direct to consumer that those wholesale channels are available to you as well. So what that means is if you're buying inventory, if your cost of goods is $1, what you want to do is you want to double that once to $2. That'll be your wholesale price. And then you double it again to $4. And that $4, like whatever you want to call it, MSRP or minimum pricing map, or whatever else, that $4 is the price that you sell to your consumer. And if you're able to command that price of $4, then that means you truly have product market fit, and you're going to be in a position that you can scale up very quickly, right? If you have that double margin, because you can sell and open up wholesale channels. And then as you open up wholesale channels drive up your volume very significantly. As your volume goes up, you're able to negotiate with your manufacturers and drive your price down, right? And the central core to all of this is being able to continually fund, produce, and deliver more and more inventory as your business scales up. So you're an e-commerce business. What are your funding options today? So there are a lot of different funding options. They're not actually all listed on this slide, but I'll go through them kind of from I would say, like most expensive from a cost of capital to least expensive. So the most expensive from a cost of capital perspective is, I would call, equity finance. So the reason for that is you have this great this advent of these aggregator businesses, right? Businesses that are trying to become the Johnson and Johnsons of e-commerce brands. So you've got Thraz.io, Clercq, Perch, all of those guys, and they're willing to purchase your business for a pretty significant multiple on your revenue. And that is a very real exit cash out scenario for product e-commerce entrepreneurs today that really didn't exist even 7 or 10 years ago, right? It's very, very recent, and they're becoming increasingly popular. They're raising gobs of money and they're deploying it across the market. So if you take on equity finance when you're a growing e-commerce company, typically as a product business, it's very expensive. You don't generally get a very good multiple against your revenue. And with the advent of these aggregators that are paying decent multiples against revenue, 2x to 7x, you can end up paying a lot more for that equity, right? And you give up a lot of that exit scenario if you take on dilutive equity finance, which means selling a piece of your business to someone else. The benefit of that is you never have to pay them back. So you don't have this debt burden on your business that is dragging your business down, where if you don't pay back on debt, you go out of business and you go bankrupt, right? It's dilutive capital. It comes in on your cap table. It reduces your exit scenario, but you never have to pay it back. One step down from that, in terms of, I would call, expensive capital, is merchant cash advance daily debit funders. So merchant cash advance daily debit funders are people who will essentially buy a portion of your future revenue at a discount. So let's say you're making $20,000 of revenue per month, they'll say, great, we project in the next 3 months you're going to earn $60,000 of revenue, and we'll give you, I don't know, $55,000 for it today, or let's say $54,000 for it today. So they're charging you 10% of the total for roughly 3 months of that revenue to receive that early. This is very expensive. So when you look at MCA, this has many names in the market. It can go by the names of daily debit funders, merchant cash advance, are the two big ones. And if you look at the standard rates, it's anywhere from 40% all the way up into the hundreds of percents, like over 100% APR to fund through MCA. And the reason for that is because they take a significant discount on your revenue, and the paybacks start they start immediately. So off of every additional sale, you're paying them back. And the faster you grow, the more quickly you pay that back, the more expensive that capital is. And so what they're trying to do is identify fast growing businesses, fund you $60,000 of your revenue, which will take you, they estimate 3 months, but they hope that you'll pay it back in 2.5. And then their returns are much, much better, right? So they're looking for growing businesses. And if you grow after you take that daily debit merchant cash advance funding, your total cost of capital is significantly higher. They also do typically have minimum paybacks. So depending on the provider, they will often say whether or not you earn any revenue or not, the minimum amount you have to pay us is $50 or $100 every day, right? And they do that just to limit their risk. As you go further down, what you is you have access to accounts receivables factors. If you have a wholesale order, and if you have the ability to deliver inventory, so you're able to figure out your overhead in some way that you can produce the inventory and deliver it, you can get access to AR factoring, which comes after you've produced the inventory. But there are many options on there. So there's like Rosenthal is one that we have an intercreditor agreement with. And we, as Kickfurther, people that provide inventory funding, actually work very well with AR factors, because AR factors, you need the wholesale. Kickfurther, we provide the inventory. It's worth mentioning rewards crowdfunding, which rewards crowdfunding isn't truly a funding source. It is more of a method of getting pre-orders. So I strongly recommend rewards crowdfunding to get your business off the ground, get to your first initial orders. But the issue is that rewards crowdfunding doesn't work really well. If Target says, hey, we want to buy 1 million units, with rewards crowdfunding, you have the duty to deliver to the people that provided you the capital. So that's kind of where Kickfurther comes into the market, is we are inventory crowdfunding. And so the way Kickfurther works is we have a community of users that are happy and willing to purchase your inventory at cost of goods. And then it's placed on consignment with a product business. We check how often and how much inventory is there through the digital solutions that e-commerce brands are plugged into. And then as that inventory is sold, you're invoiced against the inventory that is sold, and then you pay the community of funders back. So in comparison to the other options, this has the benefits of being pay as you sell funding. So there's no obligation up until the point that the inventory is consumed. It is also very efficient from a cost of capital perspective. Businesses on Kickfurther are funding anywhere between 1 to 1.5% per month, which is something we pay attention to. And for the people that are more financially savvy entrepreneurs, it has the benefit of not coming onto your balance sheet either as an asset or a liability. So technically, it's our community is buying that inventory. They're placing the inventory with you on consignment, but it's not your asset. But you do get to recognize the revenue after you sell that consigned inventory. So it's a really interesting way of building a very capital light, asset efficient product business by allowing other people to provide the funding for your inventory. And then the cheapest, best capital on the market are going to be like SBA loans. So if you can get an SBA loan between 4 to 8%, that is typically the best funding option, bar none, for any business. And the issue is that SBA loans typically don't scale. So they'll provide maybe, 20 to 25% of the capital that a growing product company needs. And we're very happy to supplement that and come in over the top. So how it works on our platform, and this isn't entirely different from other places. Everybody's moving to this data play, right? So the way it works on Kickfurther is you provide us with your manufacturer's information, including their cost of goods, how much you've bought from them, what their production schedule is. We take a business through our diligence process. If everything looks good, then we launch the co-op, you fund, and then we pay your manufacturer directly. And then after the manufacturer produces the goods, they're shipped to you and placed on consignment, at which point you have the right to sell through that inventory through whatever reasonable business means. Whether that means you want to give it away as samples, you want to take it to a fair and sell it from a booth, or you want to sell it through e-commerce, or you want to sell it through wholesale. We are distribution channel agnostic, and we don't want to get in the way of the product businesses we work with. So you get the inventory, you can use it however you want. Whenever the inventory is consumed, it triggers the underlying consignment contract, and you have to pay the people that provided the funding back per unit of inventory that is consumed. We have a flat, as far as I know, we are the only inventory funding provider where you can access a marketplace of funders with a flat subscription fee. And that is variable depending on your trailing 12 months revenue, anywhere from $4,000 a month to our deepest discount package for, super early startups is just $400 a month. The benefit is you can fund the inventory, you get access to it, and you only have to pay for it as you sell it. And we are non-dilutive, so we don't. And what we found is that this blended solution typically creates higher funding limits and overall lower blended costs for the businesses that are working on our platform. And one of the other ancillary benefits that's kind of unique is when you're a product business, what you're typically going to find is there's going to be certain businesses that want to fund you when you're at, let's say, 250 to 500K of revenue. And then there's going to be cheaper capital, one stack down from 500K to 1 million. And then there's going to be cheaper capital from 1 million to 5 million, and so on and so forth. And what we typically find with product businesses is that they start here and then they're constantly in market building out that stack. And the nice thing about Kickfurther is we have a very diverse pool of funders already on the marketplace, and we're able to nurture a business's growth up from the minimum of $150,000 of trailing 12 months revenue, all the way up to the biggest businesses we're working with are in that, probably in the $30 to $40 million of trailing 12 months revenue range. So we have a nice diverse pool of funders that are very happy to support the growth of entrepreneurs from the beginning all the way up until the point where they access, very, very cheap bank capital. So these are, this is kind of just like a slide where you can take a look at our platform, take a look at the numbers that are there. And if that's cheaper than the funding that you're currently able to access, we are the only ones that operate as a public marketplace. So we're super duper transparent. I'm a product entrepreneur myself. I created this platform to serve the needs of product entrepreneurs with the solution that I thought made a lot of sense. If anybody has feedback on how we can improve, I'm always listening. We can fund anywhere. Actually, our minimum we'll do is about $12,000. This says 20, all the way up to about $3 million of inventory. Our deals typically, our co-ops typically get funded within, if not funded in minutes, they're getting funded in days. And you have the ability, as we've mentioned earlier, to set your own payout schedule, right? So it's pay as you sell inventory, meets the needs of your product business as you scale. Here's a little QR code that we make available. So if anybody would like to grab a snapshot of that, it'll take you to a landing page, and I think we can take it from there. Cool.